All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Pursuit. Um, we're still in our series on emotional stuff, and um, because we don't listen to our own advice before we deal with our emotions, we're gonna distract ourselves with a personality quiz
I don't think
that
we're
we find
distracting ourselves.
that we find on BuzzFeed.
I don't think it's a distraction.
So apparently, BuzzFeed has figured out how to match chicken wing flavors to your personality, and I am very intrigued. So everyone is going to be participating, including those that are off camera, who will be on camera soon.
Just you wait.
So the first question is: on a scale of 1 to 6, how messy of an eater are you?
First of all, why is it 1 to 6?
I'm not gonna. Yo, I was about to say the same thing. I really don't like this quiz. The fact that they can't just do 1 to 10
or
like,
5.
that too. Well, I mean, if they do 5, it's gonna look uneven. Cause
Yeah, but it's a more even scale.
how is an odd number an even scale?
Because if you look at it in terms of percentages, each fifth is 20%. Like on a scale from 1 to 10, it's more even breakdown.
I mean, you have a percentage with 6.
Not as even.
What?
It'll be like a decimal.
Okay, you can have percentages that are
Yeah, but
decimals.
it's not as it's not as good of a breakdown. Anyways, on a scale from 1 to 6, how messy of an eater are you? I think it depends on who I'm with.
Yeah.
Because I would order different things depending on who I'm with.
Like the stomp was so loud. I really hope the microphones pick that up. Jeez.
Okay, scale from 1 to 10. I'm gonna say I'm
1
a
to
4.
6.
1 to 6. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so are we doing it like based on comfort or?
I feel like we should do this based on comfort.
Okay.
Okay. So then I'm a full on 6 that
Yeah.
if I want to be, but I'm gonna say 5. Don't give myself a little
Yeah,
benefit
I
of
was
the
gonna
doubt.
say 5.
I'm 6.
Pick a dipping sauce to go with your wings. Blue cheese, honey mustard, sour cream, ketchup, and ranch. Who dips their wings in ketchup?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm judging you so hard.
When it's like,
Or sour cream.
oh yeah, sour cream as well. But to be honest, I'm not much of a dipper.
Oh, I love ranch.
Blue cheese.
I don't really dip.
You can pick none of these.
I did.
It isn't okay.
Don't forget to order a side dish. Nachos, cheesy garlic bread, potato salad, french fries, or sweet potato fries.
I feel like nachos aren't really a side dish.
Yeah, unless if it
It's
was
an
like chips and
appetizer.
salsa, then that's
No,
more
it's
of a
still an
side.
appetizer.
It's not a main.
Yeah, but it's an appetizer.
Yeah.
It's not a side
not-
dish.
Well, it could be a side. I think I would go with fries. Keep it classic.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want the garlic bread.
I feel like garlic bread doesn't go with wings though for me.
It's bread and chicken.
Yeah, but
And
garlic bread
cheese.
is more of like a pasta side dish for me.
Well, that's a shame on you for limiting yourself in such a way.
I'm not limiting, it's just what I'm comfortable with. And something to wash it all down with. Milk. Why? I don't get
Because if it's hot wings,
I don't get people
Yeah,
that drink milk with meals.
If it's hot
No, I
wings, that
get
makes
that,
sense.
but it's not like, oh, I'm having wings. Let me get a glass of milk on the side. I don't get it. Like in all the DComs, right? You know what a DCom is,
I
right?
have no clue. What
Disney Channel original movie. DCOM, DCom. And all the DComs, these kids have like a plate of spaghetti and meatballs with a glass of milk.
I know, yeah.
Disgusting. I can't.
I mean,
I'm
isn't
sorry.
that's what we? I mean, that's what you eat in school, isn't it?
I don't do that. I never did that.
Public school lunch.
Yeah, but I'm not grabbing milk.
Yeah, I never did that.
What was the other option?
I brought water.
Yeah.
But you ate it with you drank it with your meal? Like as in between bites of school lunch, you're drinking chocolate milk?
There wasn't enough chocolate milk in that to do all of that. You just chugged it at the end.
She had a juice. You had the milk first and then the juice? That's a strange combination. I'm gonna pick either soda or water. You know, it depends.
I'm going
I'm gonna
soda.
pick soda.
Yeah, I'm doing soda.
Who am I? Who am I kidding? What do you usually watch when chowing down on wings?
No basketball?
Oh, I feel
That's
like it's
a really
more.
weird option.
It's more. I feel like that would be more fitting for basketball than baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking football, like the Super Bowl and stuff.
Netflix it is.
I guess so. Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah.
And finally, how many napkins do you use? All of them, honestly.
I'm more of a moist towelette person.
I think depends on the type of wings. Because if it's like a sticky sauce, then you definitely need a moist towelette versus a
Yeah.
regular napkin. But if it's like a dry rub, you can get away with a regular napkin.
I like to say that I always order the sticky, so I'm gonna go moist.
True. All right. Done. Okay. Nice job. Please wait for the other players to finish.
Didn't finish yet. Okay. I'm not gonna lie, I do think we may have taken this quiz.
I think
feel like
we
I
all got
reckon-
hot buffalo.
Right. So everyone here is hot buffalo, which is your taste buds are hardcore and you love to push things to the extreme. You've got a high. Hold on.
You've
Read
got a
more.
high pain tolerance and like to make bold moves. You're hella spicy and you wouldn't change it for the world. If you're gonna read it, you gotta read it spicily. Period.
And now, one person got mild buffalo.
That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that she was the one person that got mild buffalo.
You like to keep things classic, and just because you are mild doesn't mean you're lame.
It doesn't.
You're still packed with flavor, and because you're not overly spicy, people can eat more of you. How delicious! Thanks for being you.
Can't wait for you guys to see them off
So
camera.
one of our AV people got mild buffalo, and the other one that didn't said, "Thanks for being basic" to her. I figured I'd just narrate it so you get like the whole, you know.
Which is why next episode there will be a camera on them, and we need to find a special BuzzFeed quiz for that episode. All right. Emotional stuff. All right, you don't have a microphone. Just be quiet.
Oh, the camera's just cut.
Okay, so
Sorry.
that was very overwhelming, if I do say
Yeah,
so
so
myself.
many choices. I do concur.
And as I say that, guess what our topic is? You'll get a like on your comment if you get it correctly. It is, I feel overwhelmed. Anyways, this is a very serious topic. Sorry that we're laughing. So, I'm just so you guys, because I don't know if I can explain being overwhelmed. I just know the feeling of being overwhelmed.
It is just overwhelming.
And it's just a big sigh. It's a big,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's kind of like you're drowning and you know how to swim, but you can't.
Yeah.
We just really launched right into
know?
this.
You know
wow.
what I mean?
I really thought you were going to say it was my size from when we ate the jelly bean. But okay, you just went for it. Wow.
She asked me for my definition.
Well, you know, that's hot buffalo for you, you know?
Mhm.
Hella spicy.
Okay, by definition, being emotionally overwhelmed means to be completely submerged in your thoughts and emotions to a point where you feel frozen or paralyzed.
Well, I'm good.
Spot on.
Nail on the head. Was hit.
So, we
Can
all
you tell I've
feel.
been overwhelmed a lot. I'm very easily overwhelmed.
I didn't want to start cracking jokes. I felt like that would have been super wrong for this episode. But
I feel like
even in the
It's
last
okay.
episode, I was holding back on some jokes. It's kind of messed up. Like, you're getting super personal, then I'm just about to start roasting you for it.
This is how we cope.
this is
I guess so.
Okay, so have you guys. Give me a moment where you guys have felt overwhelmed.
2 seconds ago.
When?
No, I mean, definitely. Well, I don't have to get serious. I think definitely like in college, felt overwhelmed. Um, Maybe like 2 weeks ago, I felt feel overwhelmed pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Last time I was like overwhelmed. I think it wasn't that long ago, to be honest. Like I joked about it before, but I get overwhelmed pretty easily just because of the fact that I overthink things to like a wild extent. When it's like a something of substance. Um, the last time I got serious, like almost a panic attack inducing overwhelmingness, uh, January to that extent. Yeah, mid January.
Yeah. I I feel overwhelmed on the reg,
Yeah.
and
I'm just thinking that like we're gonna talk to people about not being overwhelmed, and we're just like, no, we feel overwhelmed
well,
all the
it's
time.
good
It's
to let
part of
them know
life.
that they're
That's
not
why
in
we're
this
talking
alone.
about it.
No, you're
We're
right,
not
you're
saying
right.
you shouldn't be overwhelmed. We're saying that it's a very normal occurrence of life.
Yeah.
But it's what you do with your being overwhelmed that is what matters.
Yeah. So it's very easy to be overwhelmed in your everyday life and like with any task, but as you said, it's how we handle that feeling overwhelmed and like dealing with it. But I know that there are so many moments where I feel like, I guess, alone in the overwhelmed, like, and it just makes me want to quit because I feel like there's always like a voice in my head that's like, you can't do this task, or like it's too much for you, you should just quit. And that's like just an easy way out, I guess, to feeling
Yeah.
that way.
And then I feel like also kind of going back to the last episode a little bit, sometimes we try to distract ourselves from the fact that we are so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like one time I didn't realize that I was like overwhelmed with like my anxieties or like my negative feelings until like I had slept over by my sister in Brooklyn
Mm.
and she just looked me in my eyes and I just broke down because I didn't realize that I was like there were just so many things swimming in my head until she she just sat me down and she's like, "Hey." And then it was just like, "Oh." Like when you need that good cry.
Yeah. No,
One
but
of
have you
those.
ever like it's just like someone asks you like, "So how are you?" And then you just start crying. That's happened to me
Yeah.
so many times
So
that I'm
many
like, "Whoa, I don't know what's happening," or like
times.
I didn't know that I was feeling this way to this
Yeah.
extent.
I don't think that's ever happened to me. And I'm not even trying to make a joke. I just don't think that's ever happened to me that someone's asked me, how am I doing? And I've just broken down off of that one question. I'm like very intrigued by this. Like
Really?
how does this work? Like how I feel like I've missed like a big like
Well, it
life moment here.
doesn't
Like
happen
what
to every person in the world, but I feel like because I'm an anxious person, right? I let things build up and I let things
same.
get the better of me.
Same.
But I think the difference is you suppress things a lot, right? Like you've said in the last episode, you just push it down, you don't even think about it. But and that's kind of how you deal with your emotions is that you don't, right? But sometimes it does, well, for me, and I guess for Asha too, like it gets to a point where it's like, I can't suppress these emotions anymore. And like, that's kind of, I feel like what led up to that conversation with your friend. The fact that you couldn't suppress these emotions anymore. So sometimes if it's the right person on the wrong day that just asks you, like, on the wrong, like, emotional day, that just asks you, like, how are you doing? And you know that they genuinely would love to know how you're doing and how they could help you with it. It'll just break all the walls down.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes when you're just like you're in an uncomfortable place in life and you're just like you kind of have nobody to talk to, or like you don't feel comfortable talking to anybody, but it's because you just like feel so alone, and it's like you just like, as you said, you were up till 3 o'clock to try and like
It's like you're too tired to think about it at that point.
Yeah, and you're just distracting yourself with so many things to just and you feel overwhelmed and you're adding to that overwhelmed feeling, that it's just that like when you finally take a moment to like breathe, you're just like it just all hits you.
Yeah.
So I do get what you're saying though. When you've kind of hit that breaking point, it's I think it's almost the opposite of what we were talking about last week, where you're trying to avoid the issue,
Mm-hmm.
and what you guys are describing, I think I understand in the sense of you're just looking for that someone just to unload all of it on at that point.
Well, it's not that you're looking for someone to unload it to.
Well,
but
like if you have the opportunity, you're gonna take it. I think.
I think, well, being overwhelmed, right?
Mhm.
I think it's more so the fact that you feel as though you have exhausted all of your options and you feel like you have no other options left. Like I've exhausted every resource that I think that I have, and I'm just stuck in this pit of despair or like this emotion that I no longer can navigate. And it's because it's not like if any random person like just asks me, "Hey, how are you doing?" I'll be like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Yeah.
But if it's like that was my sister, that she just like looked me straight in my eyes, right?
She knew. Yeah.
Like if it could have been like some rando on the street that I knew from like middle school, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm
Mhm.
great." But it's that one person that you know would understand your situation, and that like they genuinely are not asking you out of any malintent. You know what I mean? Like they're not just asking because they're going to use this information down the line to hurt me.
Yeah. And I feel like with today's generation, like social media is such a big thing, and people just post like the little snippets of their like happy.
Your highlight reel.
Yeah, and then like I noticed that like sometimes I'll just be scrolling and I'll just look and I'll feel overwhelmed, and I'm like, wow, they're doing so great. Like they don't
Right.
even understand. Like they're probably like not overwhelmed like I am,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like you're putting that shame almost on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Where it's like when you think about it, they're probably like a lot of times we mask our feelings of being overwhelmed by like doing all of these things and like making it look like we're so much better than we are, because you wouldn't want people to even question the fact that you're not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where social media can get very toxic, because you're trying to project the fact that like, oh, I'm going out, I'm living my best life, I'm doing all these things, going to all these places, and then you go home and you sit down and you're like, I can like take this off.
Yeah.
And I can just be. And that's kind of, I feel like that's where we should draw the line between what social media is versus what we are.
Also, can we talk about how I feel like we're all like in a stage where you kind of like feel like you should have it all together.
Oh, 100%.
And you just don't. Or at least I don't have it all together. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. But I feel like it's so easy to look at someone else and think like, oh my God, you're in a better situation than I am. And like everybody's struggling and feeling overwhelmed in their own situation, that whatever is bothering you, and someone may not be struggling in that way, but they're struggling in a very different way and area.
So I feel like our age difference now shows up, because I feel like I've been through that part of life already. Because like that for me was college. Like during, I want to say maybe like the end of college, and maybe just like some time coming like right after I finished, like graduating and stuff. I I I wouldn't say it was a full on like anxiety attack or a panic attack, but it was definitely something. Because I've met people who've had, like I've seen people go through their like panic attacks and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I had something close to this. Like it's on the same like wavelength there. And I had that for like years. Like it was really bad. Could not. I don't think I slept properly for a few years. Um, but yeah, I mean it's interesting because one of the things that I think kind of scared me in that time was the fact that I didn't really know what was over. It was just like it was just so much of like everything you're going through that you can't even like last week we spoke about like, all right, pinpoint that one thing and then just give it to. It's like I couldn't even do that much because it was just like you were saying. It's that feeling of trying, like you can swim, but at the same time you're still drowning, right? It's like I feel like I should be able to handle this, but yet
Mhm.
I can't, and I don't know why. Yeah, so that that was definitely an interesting time for me. Um, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but yeah, I'll leave it there for right now.
So, how do you guys? What are some healthy alternatives do you think people can like take away from this? And if they're feeling overwhelmed, you can.
I think a lot of times when I am overwhelmed, I kind of go back to Matthew 11:28, where it says, I pulled it up. It's 28-30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I feel like that's a verse that kind of comes up a lot throughout the year. It was years when people are telling you like cast your cares onto God and He'll take care of it for you. But I feel like you kind of need to break it down and like really look into like um, what He's actually saying, because He's not just saying come to me and like just tell me your problem. He's saying I will give you rest. I will take away all of those feelings of being overwhelmed, of being anxious, of being depressed. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. So not only are you just like casting your cares onto him and he's going to help you solve it, but like you need to learn how to do these things. You need to learn from my example. You need to learn from the things that I'm teaching you about how it is that you need to handle these situations, because it's going to happen again. Like that's just part of life. You're gonna encounter these negative emotions. You're gonna encounter positive emotions, but it's up to you to learn from what God is telling you and to learn from what He's like showing to you as to how you should be coping and how you should be managing these feelings so that you can navigate your emotions before you get to the point of being overwhelmed.
Yeah. Um.
And again, a lot of these things are way easier said than done. It's you're not always going to want to like, listen to everything that God is telling you. You're not always going to want to do that work of teaching, like of learning what it is that he's trying to teach you.
Mhm.
But it's up to you to decide if you're going to learn the lessons that he's teaching you, or if you're just going to allow yourself to be swallowed whole by these feelings. It's up to you if you want to let yourself grow, I think.
See, my thing is that like when I think back to the times I felt overwhelmed,
Mhm.
that is, I think overwhelmed is like going back to the definition you had used earlier. Um, it's like a mental or emotional paralysis, right? And yes, I agree with everything you said, but at the same time, I feel like that is so difficult to do
Oh, for sure.
when you're going through this. Um, because of the way being overwhelmed attacks you, if I can put it that way. Because it's not like um, just being sad about something, or
Mhm.
just a simple like being angry or whatever. I mean, if you're paralyzed by this, um, I think it's hard to reach out. It's hard to, whether it's a person or God. I mean, even with what you were saying earlier about you and your sister, and in that situation, um, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there were times you were still overwhelmed, and she may have been talking to you, but you didn't get to that point yet where you could kind of tell her what's really going on and things like that, right? Even though she's there all the time in that sense, right? Um, so when I think about being overwhelmed, um, one of the things that I think that I've actually begun to do is run away. Right? Not like literally run away.
You can't
but-
really run away from your mind.
Right?
You can't.
Right. But I've noticed for me that sometimes I have to like physically remove myself
Mhm.
from certain things, right? Even if it is for 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever it is, just to kind of reset a little bit and like refresh like what's going on in my head, because it's again that feeling of just drowning. Sometimes you just need to kind of get away from everything that's happening around you, right? Not to say that the problems are going to magically go away, but I think sometimes you need that split second of clarity to then do what you were saying, to then be able to reach out to God and things like that. And I think sometimes we think, no, I can't run away, I can't think. No, sometimes you need to be able to just take that break, right?
I think it's good to distinguish from the fact that you're not running away, but you're just taking a step back. Because those are two very different things. Like me taking a step back is me like catching my breath so that I can get back, like so I can fight, right? Versus me running away is like avoiding my situation and trying to distract myself and not think about it anymore.
Yeah, I feel like being overwhelmed, it like brings a lot of brain fog to you, and you just feel like tired, and you're just feeling all the emotions. Like last episode we were talking about emotions, but this time it's like emotions plus like you're tired, plus you just feel sad, plus like it's just, which sad is technically an emotion. Yeah. But you know what I mean. It's just like that plus one. And I know that there are times where like usually when I'm overwhelmed, I like to like play some like worship songs or whatever. But like there are also moments where I'm just like too overwhelmed, too tired, and I just don't want to do anything, but I know I should. And I'm just like not doing it. Like I'm just like staying there,
and that
just,
kind of builds on it.
Exactly.
The fact that I know I should be doing these things to relieve it, and I physically cannot.
Well, I mean, one of the things, and I don't know when this became like a very popular like meme on the internet of when Elijah was overwhelmed, God told him just to like eat and take a nap, right? And I just find it so funny because of how it's such a simplified version of what happens in First Kings, yet it's very, very accurate as to what happens, right? He is overwhelmed. He's running for his life, and God's just like, okay, just like eat something, right? Take a nap,
get some rest,
right? And I think yes, it's funny to put it that way, but I think the greater part of the story is, one, God is not drowning in the situation, right? And I think that's something we often forget. And not that we forget, I think sometimes when you're drowning, it's easy to lose sight of God. The same way when Peter's walking on water, and then when he starts drowning, right? You know, Jesus has to grab him and pull him back up, right? I think that for a lot of us, we sometimes lose sight of the fact that God is, just because God is with us in the situation doesn't mean that he is drowning in the situation, right? And I think sometimes if we were just able to take a second to reach out in our panic, in our distress, in our worry, our anxiety, whatever it is, right? We would see that God is actually there with an outstretched hand, ready to pull us out, which is what you see happen. And the other thing that you don't see online is that when all this is happening, right, the Lord appears to Elijah, right? And I'm trying to find the exact verse, right? It says, it's First Kings chapter 19 from verse 11. It says, the Lord said, go out, stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart, shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the mountain. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing, Elijah?" And I think what's so beautiful about this is Elijah sees sort of all these like natural disasters happening, right? Things that to this day we would see when you see hurricanes happening, you see people overwhelmed in the news, especially like when they're trying to get like the best coverage of like the hurricane passing, and then you seeing like the reporter get like swept away in it, right? Have you not seen those like clips of like CNN people and stuff like
Getting
they're-
swept into a tornado.
yes,
Are they alive?
yeah, like they'll be standing there and you'll just see like them just start like getting blown like out of frame and stuff. Like they're trying to stand there and it's like, dude, like we get it, it's a hurricane. Like get to safety. But
Sounds like things of movies.
no,
No, I'm not doubting. Like I
feel like we're about
definitely.
to go down like a YouTube like rabbit hole now. But but what's amazing is that despite everything that's overwhelming Elijah or that should overwhelm him, the Lord appears to him as the calm, gentle whisper.
I think a lot of times we expect there to be like this grand gesture when we expect God to move in our lives, that we overlook those like slight breezes that do happen.
It's what you were saying before. I can't remember now at this point if it was early this episode or last about the equal and opposite reaction.
Last episode.
Right? I think we often expect God to respond with the same overwhelming force that we're being overwhelmed. Like, there's no way he can push back everything that's overwhelming us unless he responds in kind. Yet, that's not what he does here with Elijah. Right? And that's often not what he, I think of Jesus on the boat with the disciples. The storm is raging. They're freaking out. And one thing that I always remember is that a lot of these guys were fishermen. So if they're freaking out, guys who live on their boats in the water, it's not like if I'm on a boat and I'm freaking out. I don't really, that's different, right? As compared to a guy who this is his livelihood. If he's freaking out, it's like if you're on the Titanic and you see the captain running, like, all right, time to move, right? But then Jesus just gets up and he's just speaks calmly. And again, it doesn't say that he yelled at it. He didn't have to. Jesus is never trying to match how bad our storm is or how bad we're overwhelmed. He never changes.
Yeah, I think it's a human reaction to to match energy. So like if you come at me with a certain energy, more often than not I'm gonna match it, right?
Really? I never knew that. I can see it on her face right now.
She's hot buffalo, don't forget.
So am I.
Yeah, hella spicy. But and I think we expect God to react in that same manner. So like if I'm feeling like I'm drowning, I'm going to expect him to snap his fingers and the water's going to dissipate. Right? Like he's going to part the sea the way I am expecting him to part the sea. But it's like we don't have the same mindset. Otherwise I wouldn't be in this position in the first place. If I thought exactly like God and if I was like, do you know what I mean? Then you wouldn't need him, right? Like he created us with free will so that we can choose whether or not we wanted to praise and to worship, right? But he also gave us this innate need for him. Like everyone's out there searching for something, right? And I think once you realize that like, hey, he's not thinking the way you're thinking. Because he knows a lot of things happening that you don't know yet. He knows my future, my past, my present, right? So if I'm expecting him to solve my problems the way I would do it, then I could have just done it myself.
Yeah. Also, I feel like when you're expecting, like, if I heard like testimonies of like people like God speaking to them a certain way, and I'm feeling overwhelmed in that moment. I'm anxious. I'm looking for an answer, and I'm talking. I'm expecting him, like, I'm looking at the same way that God spoke to them, and I'm like, but why aren't you talking to me? And he is talking to you, but like, he's not going to speak to you the way that he speaks to that person, because he knows you. He knows your situation. He knows what you need to. He probably just knows that you need a nap and to eat, and he's like, I can't speak to you right now because you're doing too much. You're freaking out, and you just need to calm down, and you need to focus on me, and like open my word, do something proactive to help you.
And I think that's what's kind of so interesting. Like, it took me so long to understand that my relationship with God is not going to look the same as your relationship with God. So the way that God is going to talk to me is not the same way he'll talk to you or to the two of them over there. I think, and I think that's, I don't want to say it's a negative thing, but I think it's something that we often kind of trap ourselves into in church, because you see people, like you said, they give this testimony like, God spoke to me. It's like, okay, I'm going through the same thing. Why isn't God speaking to me? Right? And it took me a while to actually understand, okay, this is my relationship with God, right? The same way that, like, all five of us here, we all have friendships with each other, but those friendships will all look different because it's two different personalities in each friendship, right? And I think it's the same thing with us and God. And like, for me, it took me a very long time to understand, oh, this is God talking to me. Sometimes it's very direct, sometimes it's not. But once I understood it, I was like, oh, hey, now I know when he's talking, right? And it's changed my relationship because I understand it now. And I think it kind of it puts my mind at ease, because now when I do go through those situations of being overwhelmed, and when I am able to cry out to God, God, why is this happening? Because that's always like my default response. God, why is this happening to me, right? When he answers, I'm actually able to like hear it now, because I've been able to understand, oh, this is my relationship with God. This is how he talks to me. Yeah.
You really sounded like you were building up to something.
No, I'm good.
I think when a lot of times when we do end up comparing our relationship with someone else, it's like you miss out on the fact that maybe he was using this person's testimony to speak to you, but you focused on the fact that he spoke to them and not to you directly. And that kind of leads you to like introspect on yourself. Like, why is it that I am not picking up on the cues that he's giving to me as well? Which can also become very overwhelming for sometimes. Like when you start comparing relationships, because you don't know other people's walks like the way that he does them.
Well, and to that, like when you're talking about social media and stuff, you see like a glimpse of someone's life. When someone's giving a testimony, you're often just seeing a glimpse of the one bad thing that happened and how God responded. You're not seeing all the other things that's happening in their life still to this moment, right? So, you know, and I think sometimes when we compare, we just add to that overwhelming feeling, because now we feel, oh, well, there's no hope for this. If God is talking to him and he sees me going through this and he's not talking to me, well, then maybe I am just stuck here. And that becomes another little pitfall that becomes so dangerous for us when we just kind of just allow those thoughts to build and build and build.
And I also feel like a lot of the times, you feel overwhelmed in the heat of the moment, but if you just took a moment to just relax and really, you'll see that it's not as deep as it was an hour ago, or like once you like cooled off. Yeah.
I think once you are able to kind of, that's also why I differentiated between taking a step back and running away. Because I feel like once you are able to take a step back, you can kind of examine your situation a little bit better, and you can you can, instead of the thoughts just living in your head and like becoming overwhelming, you can kind of get them out. Like you can talk things through, even if you're just like speaking to yourself,
Mhm.
like in front of a mirror, or like
Yeah.
if you're writing things down, or if you're just thinking about things in a different way, you can kind of get those thoughts out of your head and become a bit more constructive with them. And that's once you're able to do that and kind of like once you can take that step back, you can kind of explain your situation to yourself,
Yeah.
which will not only help you kind of sort it out, but it'll help you navigate for the future. And it's not just like, because I don't want to say that God isn't playing a part in it, right? You know what I mean? Because it's not you doing it on your own. By you taking a step back, you're kind of giving yourself breathing room to like say, hey, God, I'm feeling these things. I don't know what's happening. I need you to step in and help me break it down.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's when you take that step back, it's not necessarily to, it's not that it's bad to write these things out and, work on them, or, you have the opportunity, you talk to your sister, and, you have people you can talk to and things like that. I'm not saying to shun those or any way, but I think we need to find that our ultimate peace from the feeling of being overwhelmed, our ultimate relief from being overwhelmed, is found in God.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes for some of us, He will be the first person we turn to. Sometimes it may take us a while to get there, but I think ultimately we need to be able to find ourselves at, like, in His presence to get that peace. Right? Because He is the one that gives peace. He is the one that gives peace that can surpass these feelings of anxiousness, of being overwhelmed, of drowning in whatever the situation is. And I think that's where ultimately that's what He was showing Elijah, right? Because even to that, when you look at the story of Elijah, this is after he like fire rains down from heaven and burns this altar, right? Like God literally just proved Himself to Elijah and everyone there, and now Elijah's scared again. And it's like, I can only I can imagine if I was God being like, dude, I just proved myself.
Yeah.
Right? I shouldn't even have to prove myself, and I just did it. And now you're over here acting as though I can't see you through this. Right? Yet instead of God responding that way, His response is, okay, hey, I have you here by yourself. All right, you gotta take care of your physical body. Eat something. All right, now take a little nap. Okay, do you hear my voice now? Right? And I think that's what often needs to happen in those situations. We need to just kind of, whether it's take a step back or someone points us in the right direction, but we need to find ourselves face to face with God in these times of overwhelming mental issues or emotional whatever distress.
Yeah. And I feel like if you are going through something and you feel overwhelmed, just know that you don't have to go through that right away. You don't have to figure it out right away in that moment. And it doesn't have to be done all at one time. It's just in the little steps that you take to get there, building up to when you're able to face that situation and get over it.
And it doesn't have to be something you're doing on your own. I know sometimes you can kind of start off on your own just because you need to be able to navigate your feelings if you're going to be able to tell them to someone else.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be something you're going through on your own. Like we've said, we have a lot of shared experiences that we kind of maybe hadn't noticed before we sat down to have this discussion, right? And just the same way that we're speaking about it now, you can speak to someone, either be it a friend, be it like, you can hit us up in the comments or something. Or like we've dropped the church number before, but if you ever need someone to talk to, I really gotta have it on deck every time I do this. But if you ever wanted to speak to someone, you can call the church at.
She's saving her phone. She's Googling it.
Why do I need it saved on my phone? I have your number. I have the pastor's number. Jeez. It's not even, why is it not here?
Exactly. It's
718-849-5277. And then there's also many different avenues if you want to speak to someone on our website, myfaith.center. If you wanted to speak to someone. I don't appreciate the shaming.
Okay.
I'm not here for it.
Any final closing thoughts?
You are not alone. We are with you. God is with you.
Period.
All right, I guess that's the end of it then. All right, guys, we'll be back here again next week for another episode. Hope you've been enjoying our series, emotional stuff.
I don't really love that name, but okay.
We'll work on
I
it.
thought we all agreed on it last episode.
We just never really fought it.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for next week.
For our unnamed series on emotional
It's a working title.
stress.
It's a working title.
Yep, we'll be back here again next week, guys.